Her hands shook as she balanced a tray of empty coffee cups, but when her phone lit up and she answered in flawless Mandarin saying,
喂，你好吗？你最近怎么样？好久不见了。
The entire cafe seemed to freeze. At a corner table, a billionaire CEO lowered his glass, stunned, not by the language, but by the woman who spoke it. In that single moment, two worlds collided. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another story just as powerful and emotional as this one. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. The cafe always smelled like burnt espresso and bleach. By mid-morning, the floor tiles were already sticky with footprints and the hum of conversation rose and fell in tides. Olivia had been on her feet since 6, refilling water pitchers, wiping counters, and forcing a tired smile for the kind of customers who barely looked at her. Her apron string dug into her waist as she carried a tray heavy with mugs. 2 oat lattes, 1 black, 1 caramel macchiato, she murmured under her breath, counting the orders like a prayer. She couldn't afford mistakes. Mistakes meant complaints, and complaints meant her manager's eyes narrowing in that way that reminded her she was replaceable. But Olivia had always been more than what people saw. Underneath the tired waitress, under the apron crusted with coffee stains, was someone no one here suspected. She carried it like a secret tucked in her bones. Her fluency in Mandarin, the language that tied her to memories of her late grandmother, a woman who had raised her with bedtime stories and folk songs in a tongue Olivia had once thought strange but now felt like music. At the corner table near the window sat William Run Chu, a man who radiated quiet authority. His tailored suit didn't scream money. It whispered it. A sleek watch glinted when he typed on his tablet. His sharp features bent into concentration. Most customers didn't notice him. They were too busy rushing in and out. But Olivia had seen his type before. Powerful, unreachable, the kind of man whose world would never intersect with hers. She didn't know his name, not yet. To her, he was just the suited man who came in some mornings, ordered a black coffee without sugar, and rarely looked at anyone. His silence was intimidating, but it was also lonely. She could feel it, though she couldn't have said why. Olivia set down her tray at the pickup counter, exhaled, and reached for her notepad. Just then, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She almost ignored it. Phones on shift were forbidden, but something about the number made her heart skip. It was May, her grandmother's old friend who still lived in Beijing. She swiped quickly and pressed the phone to her ear. She said softly, her tongue wrapping easily around the syllables.
喂，你好吗？你最近怎么样？好久不见了。
Hello. How are you? How have you been? It's been a long time, she said. The words rolled out smooth, natural, as if she'd never left the language behind. She walked toward the dish station, speaking quietly, but her voice still carried in the cafe's morning hush. Customers glanced up, brows raised in surprise, the sound unfamiliar in this space. But one man didn't just glance. William froze. His hand, mid-motion lifting his glass, stopped in the air. Mandarin. Here. From her. His gaze sharpened, following the voice back to the woman in the worn apron with tired eyes and a resolute back. He expected broken phrases, perhaps tourist-level chatter, but what he heard was fluent, melodic, precise. Olivia didn't notice him. She was too wrapped in the conversation, laughing softly at May's story, answering in full sentences that painted colors in the air.
我工作很累，但是我还在坚持。
Work is exhausting, but I'm still holding on. Her voice cracked a little, honesty slipping through in her native cadence. William leaned back in his chair, studying her like he was seeing her for the first time. For years, people had approached him with calculated polish, with rehearsed smiles and hidden motives. Yet here was this woman speaking a language that meant precision and history to him, unaware she was pulling the ground out from under him. Olivia ended the call with a soft laugh and tucked the phone away. The moment was gone, for her. But for him it had only just begun. The rush picked up, pulling Olivia back into the rhythm of clattering cups and scribbled orders. But she couldn't shake a strange sensation that someone was watching. Each time she looked toward the corner, the suited man's eyes darted away, feigning interest in his tablet. Still, she felt the weight of his gaze. She brushed it off. Men looked sometimes. Usually not like that, but still, it wasn't her problem. Olivia! Her manager barked. Table 6 is waiting. She jolted back into motion, balancing another tray, her face set in determined neutrality. Don't be late, don't slip, don't think about anything except getting through the day. That was survival. But William, he wasn't thinking about survival. He was thinking about possibility. His company was in the middle of delicate negotiations with a Chinese partner. His own Mandarin was rusty at best, and he'd been relying on interpreters who felt rehearsed, transactional. Yet here, in a rundown cafe, he'd heard something different. Fluent, alive, genuine. More than the language, though, was the woman herself. The way she carried weariness in her shoulders yet spoke with grace. The way her voice softened when she laughed. William rarely let curiosity take hold of him. But now it did. And once curiosity lodged itself in his chest, he knew he wouldn't let it go. As the morning wound down, Olivia slipped outside for her break. She leaned against the brick wall, sipping lukewarm water, letting the autumn breeze cool her sweat-damp skin. Her phone buzzed again, a text from May.
你要记得，你的声音很重要。
Remember, your voice matters. Olivia smiled faintly, though her chest tightened. If only May knew how little her voice mattered here, where people ordered coffee without meeting her eyes. Inside, William stood, gathering his things. His driver would be waiting, but he lingered, glancing through the window at the woman outside. Something had shifted in him, a rare pull he couldn't explain. He was used to commanding boardrooms, striking deals worth millions. But this was different. As Olivia crushed her water bottle and headed back inside, their eyes met for a fleeting second through the glass. Neither spoke. But in that silent glance, a question was born. And it would demand an answer. The following morning, Olivia dragged herself into the cafe with the kind of fatigue that no amount of coffee could cure. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a familiar chorus to another 12-hour shift. She tied her apron and smoothed her curls into a bun, reminding herself that survival didn't leave much room for dreams. But something felt different today, though she couldn't have said why. The cafe was quieter than usual, the morning rush having tapered off. Olivia was refilling napkin holders when the manager strode toward her, his expression a strange mix of irritation and awe. "Olivia," he said stiffly, "there's someone here asking for you. By name." Her brows shot up. By name. Who? The manager jerked his chin toward the corner table, the same one she'd noticed yesterday. Sitting there again, but this time with a sharper purpose in his eyes, was the suited man. He wasn't hunched over his tablet today. He was waiting. Olivia's stomach dipped. "I don't know him." "Well, he knows you," the manager muttered. "Says he wants a word. Don't embarrass the cafe, all right?" Her throat tightened. What on earth? Still, she forced her legs to move. Tray clutched in hand like a shield, she approached the table. "Good morning," she said carefully, professionalism coating her tone. "Can I help you?" The man stood extending a hand. William Runchu. His voice was smooth, commanding without trying. CEO of Runchu Enterprises. Her eyes widened. She'd heard that name. Anyone who read the news had. Runchu Enterprises owned everything from shipping lines to tech firms. He was one of those untouchable billionaires who lived in skyscrapers, not cafes. She didn't shake his hand right away, suspicion prickling under her skin. And you're here because... A faint smile curved his lips. Because yesterday, I overheard you speaking Mandarin. Flawlessly. Olivia's chest tightened. She hadn't realized anyone had really been listening. Heat crawled up her neck. That was just a personal call. Perhaps, William said, studying her as though he could peel back every layer she tried to hide. But your Mandarin wasn't ordinary. It was the kind I've only heard in boardrooms overseas. You've had training experience. I grew up with it, she said defensively. It's not a resume point. It's just part of me. That answer seemed to intrigue him more. He leaned forward, resting his elbows lightly on the table. And yet you're here working this cafe. The way he said it wasn't cruel, but Olivia bristled anyway. You say that like there's something wrong with honest work. William's eyes softened, just slightly. Not at all. But I think you could be doing more. I could use someone with your fluency. She blinked. Excuse me. I'm in the middle of a major deal with Chinese partners, he explained. His voice quiet enough not to carry. I need someone who can bridge language and culture seamlessly. Most interpreters I've hired are adequate. You, however, could be invaluable. Olivia nearly laughed. It sounded absurd. Yesterday she was wiping counters, and today a billionaire was offering her. What, a job? Why me? You don't even know me. True. His eyes held hers unwavering. But I know authenticity when I hear it. And I haven't stopped thinking about that call since. Her pulse jumped. She wanted to believe he was exaggerating, playing some game. But something about his tone carried weight. I'm not interested in being a novelty to impress your partners, she said finally, her voice low. If that's what this is. It isn't. He cut in gently, but firmly. This isn't about showing you off. It's about trust. I trust that you could help me in a way others can't. Olivia's mind swirled. She thought of May's text from yesterday. Remember, your voice matters. Could it be true? And yet, why me though? There are agencies filled with professionals. Why chase a waitress? For the first time, William hesitated. His jaw worked slightly, like he was biting back a truth. Then he said quietly, because I don't want rehearsed professionals. I want someone real. The words landed heavier than she expected. Before she could respond, a customer at the counter waved impatiently. Olivia straightened, flustered. I need to get back to work. Of course, William said smoothly, but his gaze lingered. Think about it. I'll be here tomorrow, same time. If you decide you're interested, come sit with me. And with that, he stood, slid on his coat, and left, leaving Olivia rooted to the spot, her thoughts astorm. The rest of her shift passed in a haze. She spilled cream on a table, forgot an order slip, and earned 2 sharp reprimands from her manager. She kept replaying his words, his voice. I want someone real. It wasn't just the offer that unsettled her. It was the way he'd looked at her, as though he'd seen through the exhaustion, the apron, the invisibility. But how could she trust him? Men with power always wanted something. And she had learned the hard way that curiosity often came with a price. Yet a part of her, the part that still whispered dreams when she closed her eyes at night, wondered if this could be different. By the time she closed the cafe that evening, Olivia's heart was split in 2 directions. Fear and intrigue, safety and risk. And for the first time in years, she didn't know which voice she wanted to follow. Olivia told herself she wasn't going back. She repeated it like a mantra as she tied her apron the next morning. William Run Chu could sit in that corner booth all day if he wanted. She wasn't about to be lured into whatever game a billionaire played when he got bored. Still, her eyes betrayed her. Every time the doorbell chimed, her head snapped up, searching for him. By mid-morning, when he finally appeared, suit immaculate, expression unreadable, her chest tightened despite herself. He ordered nothing this time. Just sat in the same corner, hands folded on the table, waiting. Olivia focused on her tasks with exaggerated energy, wiping the same countertop 3 times, restocking straws that didn't need restocking. She felt him watching, but she refused to meet his gaze. Her coworker Jasmine noticed. "Who's the tall, dark, and moneyed guy staring at you like you hung the moon?" she whispered. Olivia flushed. "Nobody. Just a customer." "Girl, customers don't sit in cafes wearing suits that cost more than my rent," Jasmine said, eyes wide. "You holding out on us? Is he your sugar daddy or something?" "Jasmine," Olivia hissed. Her coworker smirked. "Relax. I'm just saying if you don't want him, I'll take him." Olivia rolled her eyes, but her insides twisted. She knew how it looked. A billionaire CEO and a waitress? To anyone else it would seem like a fantasy. To her it felt like a setup. At noon she slipped outside for her break. The autumn air bit at her cheeks as she sat on the back steps, chewing a granola bar she couldn't taste. Her phone buzzed, another message from May. "Don't hide your light, Olivia. Even diamonds get lost in coal if they're buried too deep." She groaned, tossing the phone into her bag. Easy for May to say. May didn't know what it was like to be judged before you opened your mouth, to be underestimated because you wore an apron. The door creaked open. She froze. William stepped out, hands tucked in his coat pockets. "You avoided me," he said evenly. She stiffened. "I was working. You could have taken a moment." "I didn't want to." Silence stretched between them. Then William tilted his head. "Why does it scare you so much?" Her chest constricted. "It doesn't scare me. It annoys me. People like you think you can walk in and what? Change my life? Like I'm supposed to be grateful because you noticed me." His jaw tightened, but his tone stayed calm. "I don't want your gratitude. I want your help." "Help?" She laughed bitterly. "You want help? From me? You've got lawyers, interpreters, assistants, people who make more in an hour than I make in a week. What could I possibly give you?" His gaze softened. Honesty. The word stunned her into silence. William stepped closer, not menacing, but with a gravity that pulled at her. "Every room I walk into is filled with people who tell me what I want to hear. You're the first person in years who hasn't. That's why I came back. That's why I need you." Olivia shook her head, heart pounding. "You don't know me. Then let me." Her throat closed. A part of her wanted to believe him, but fear screamed louder. If she let him in, she risked being used, humiliated, discarded. She'd been burned before, by men who promised sincerity but left her smaller than she'd been before. She stepped back. "I can't. I won't." William studied her for a long moment, then nodded once as if respecting her boundary. But his eyes said he wasn't done. "Very well," he murmured. "But I'll be back tomorrow. And the day after. Until you're willing to hear me." With that, he left her standing in the cold, her defenses trembling. The gossip at the cafe exploded that afternoon. Jasmine swore she'd seen William's car outside. Another barista claimed he tipped $100 just to get a table near Olivia. Soon, whispers followed her everywhere. Why's he after her? Did she do something? Olivia clenched her fists as she scrubbed a table. She wanted to scream that she hadn't done anything, that this wasn't her fault. Instead, she kept her head down, her cheeks burning. When she got home that night, her small apartment felt even smaller. She paced the narrow living room, replaying his words. "You're the first person in years who hasn't told me what I want to hear." Why did that sound like a confession instead of a compliment? She curled onto the couch, wrapping a blanket around herself. "Don't get sucked in, Olivia," she whispered. "Don't you dare." But as she drifted toward sleep, the echo of his voice lingered, slipping past her defenses, planting seeds she didn't want to water. The cafe door jingled the next morning, and Olivia didn't even need to look up. She felt his presence like a change in the air. William walked in with a quiet certainty, settling into his corner seat as though it belonged to him. She told herself she wouldn't engage. She took other tables, passed him by, pretended not to notice when he watched her with steady patience. But the manager had other ideas. "Olivia," her boss barked. "Table 4 wants you. Personally." Her stomach sank. "Table 4. William." She carried the notepad over, her expression neutral. "What can I get you?" "Nothing," William said simply. "I'm here to talk." She bristled. "This is a cafe, not your office." "Then let's call it a neutral ground." His tone was calm, almost amused. "Sit down, Olivia." Her first instinct was to walk away. But the manager's eyes burned into her back, and the last thing she needed was to be accused of rudeness. She slid into the seat across from him, arms crossed. "This better be quick." William inclined his head. "Fair enough. I have a meeting this afternoon with my Chinese partners. My interpreter canceled last night. Emergency. I need someone fluent. You're the only one I trust for this." Olivia gaped. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious." His voice carried the weight of a man used to being obeyed, but softer somehow, like he was giving her the choice. She shook her head. "I'm not a professional interpreter. I serve coffee. I can't just walk into some boardroom with billionaires and pretend I belong." "You wouldn't be pretending," William said firmly. "You belong more than you realize." The words tugged at something deep inside her, something she tried to bury. Still, she scoffed. "Even if I wanted to, I can't just leave work." "I've already spoken to your manager," William said smoothly. "You have the afternoon off." Her jaw dropped. "You what?" "He agreed when I made a generous donation to the cafe." Olivia stared at him, caught between fury and disbelief. "You can't just buy my time like I'm some." "I didn't buy you," he interrupted, his gaze steady. "I cleared the path so you could choose." The silence between them crackled. She hated that he made it sound reasonable. She hated more that a part of her wanted to say yes. Finally, she muttered, "One meeting. That's it." William's lips curved faintly, the closest thing she'd seen to a smile. "One meeting." Agreed. The car that picked her up after her shift wasn't like anything Olivia had ever ridden in. Leather seats, tinted windows, the faint scent of cedar. She sat stiffly, hands clasped in her lap, trying not to gape like a tourist. William sat beside her, typing something on his phone, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to look so terrified," he said without glancing up. "I'm not terrified," she muttered. His eyes flicked to hers, catching the lie. "You'll be fine." They pulled up to a sleek high-rise downtown, its glass walls reflecting the gray sky. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble floors and hushed wealth. Olivia's boots squeaked faintly against the polished surface, each step making her more aware of how out of place she felt. The conference room was a cavern of glass and chrome. Men and women in tailored suits filed in, speaking rapid Mandarin. William greeted them with a nod, then turned to Olivia. "This is Olivia." She'll be assisting today. All eyes shifted to her. Some skeptical, some curious. Her palms dampened, but when the conversation began, instinct took over. The first phrase came easily, then the next, and soon she was translating seamlessly, her voice steady and confident. William spoke, his tone sharp with authority, and Olivia carried his words into Mandarin with precision. When the partners responded, she bridged their phrases back to English, capturing nuance, tone, intention. She felt the old rhythm return, the one her grandmother had instilled in her. Language not as words, but as music, as connection. At one point, William leaned toward her, murmuring, "You're extraordinary." Heat rose to her cheeks, but she didn't falter. The meeting stretched for 2 hours. When it ended, the Chinese delegation shook William's hand warmly, one of them saying to Olivia in Mandarin, "You honor your family with your gift." The words lodged in her chest like a prayer. In the elevator afterward, silence stretched between them. Olivia's body buzzed with adrenaline. "You did more than fine," William said quietly. "You turned the tide." She crossed her arms, trying to steady herself. "Don't flatter me." "It's not flattery. It's truth." She turned toward him, irritation and something else mingling in her chest. "Why do you care so much? You could have hired anyone." William's gaze softened. "Because I don't want anyone. I want you." The words hung in the air, heavy with more than business. Olivia's breath caught. She looked away quickly, staring at the elevator doors. "This doesn't change anything. After today, I'm done." William didn't argue, but the small, knowing curve of his mouth told her he didn't believe her. That night, back in her apartment, Olivia replayed every moment. The look she'd received, the pride she'd felt when the Chinese delegate praised her, the quiet admiration in William's eyes. She wrapped herself in her blanket, heart racing. She wanted to believe it was just a job, just a favor. But deep down, she knew it was the beginning of something she couldn't ignore. Olivia hadn't expected to see William again after the boardroom meeting. She'd told herself it was a one-time thing, that she'd done her part and could safely retreat back into the shadows of cafe life. But the very next morning, a sleek black car idled outside as she ended her shift. The driver leaned out. "Miss Olivia, Mr. Run Chu requests your company." She froze. "Tell him I'm not available." But William himself stepped out from the car, suit jacket draped casually over one shoulder, his eyes steady on hers. "It's just dinner," he said, as though it were the simplest thing in the world. Olivia's first instinct was to say no, but her body betrayed her, curiosity thrumming louder than caution. With a resigned sigh, she followed him. The restaurant was nothing like the cafe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, chandeliers scattered light like falling stars, and every table seemed occupied by people who belonged to magazines. Olivia tugged at the sleeves of her thrift store sweater, wishing she could disappear. William noticed. "You look fine," he murmured as they sat. She arched a brow. "That's not reassuring coming from a man in a suit worth more than my car." He almost smiled. "Worth more than your car doesn't mean worth more than your presence." She rolled her eyes, but the words lingered. Over courses of food she couldn't pronounce, their conversation deepened. At first, it stayed on safe ground. Business, the boardroom meeting, his schedule. But eventually, the silence between them grew heavy, expectant. It was Olivia who broke it. "Why are you really doing this? You have every resource in the world. You could hire 10 translators tomorrow. Yet here you are, with me." William set down his fork. For a moment, he seemed older than his years, the weight of something unspoken pulling at his features. "My father," he said quietly, "was ruthless. Brilliant but ruthless. He built the company on deals and betrayals, and he raised me to believe trust was weakness. Olivia studied him, surprised at the rawness in his tone. When he died, William continued, I inherited everything, but not the ability to connect. People see my name and they see a fortune, not a man. I don't think anyone's spoken to me honestly in years. Until you. Olivia's throat tightened. She remembered the way she'd snapped at him outside the cafe, accusing him of thinking he could buy her time. Honest, yes. But she hadn't imagined it meant something to him. I'm not trying to save you, she said softly. I know. His gaze held hers, steady and unflinching. That's why I want to know you. Later that evening, as they walked along the river outside, Olivia finally let him in on her own story. My grandmother was Chinese, she said, her voice carrying on the breeze. She raised me after my mom left. Grandma used to say language was more than words, it was memory. So she taught me Mandarin, not because she thought I'd need it for work, but because it was her way of keeping our bond alive. William listened in silence, his expression softening. She passed away when I was 19, Olivia continued, swallowing hard. After that, it felt like my voice didn't matter anymore, like I was speaking into a void. Her eyes glistened, and she looked away quickly. So yeah, I serve coffee now. It's easier to be invisible than to hope anyone sees you. William stopped walking. But I see you, he said simply. The words pierced something in her. She wanted to dismiss them, to laugh it off, but instead her chest ached with an emotion she hadn't let herself feel in years. Longing. Over the next week, their paths kept crossing. William would stop by the cafe, sometimes just to sit and watch her work, other times to ask if she'd accompany him to another meeting. Olivia resisted at first, but gradually she found herself saying yes. In those hours, more pieces of their pasts unraveled. William confessed how his wealth had trapped him, how women he dated saw him as a bank account rather than a man. Olivia admitted the fear that haunted her, being abandoned again, like when her mother left without a goodbye. They were two people from opposite worlds, yet their wounds spoke the same language. One evening, after a particularly intense meeting where Olivia's translation smoothed over what could have been a disastrous misunderstanding, William offered her a ride home. The car was quiet as they drove through the city lights, but not uncomfortable. Do you ever wonder, William asked, his voice low, why life puts certain people in your path? Olivia glanced at him. I wonder why it puts certain people in mine. Usually it's to teach me a hard lesson. And me? She hesitated, her pulse quickening. I don't know yet. He nodded, accepting her honesty. But in his eyes was a flicker of something more. Hope, maybe, or desire. That night, Olivia lay awake, staring at her ceiling. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not for her uniform or her paycheck, but for the soul beneath. And it terrified her, because being seen meant being vulnerable. And vulnerability always came with a cost. Still, she couldn't deny the truth. She wanted more. Have you ever met someone who saw a hidden part of you that no one else noticed? How did it change the way you saw yourself? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear if you believe people are placed in our lives for a reason. The cafe felt brighter the next morning, though nothing had changed. Same scratched tables, same squeaky chairs, same smell of old coffee beans. Maybe it was Olivia who had changed. She hummed under her breath as she wiped the counter, an old Mandarin lullaby her grandmother used to sing. She didn't notice William until he spoke from the corner booth. I like that song, he said softly. She jumped, nearly dropping her rag. You can't just sneak up on people like that. He chuckled. You're the only person who's ever accused me of sneaking. Usually, people hear my name and I'm the loudest presence in the room. Olivia smirked. Well, around here, You're just another customer who doesn't tip enough. His brows rose, amused. Is that so? He pulled out a sleek black card and placed it on the counter. Then dinner's on me tonight. Her heart skipped. William. No arguments, he said almost gently. Think of it as a thank you. Humor me. Dinner turned into laughter. William surprised her with his dry wit, making sarcastic remarks about the pomp of the restaurant they sat in. Olivia teased him about his perfect posture and the way he dissected a menu like it was a contract negotiation. At one point, when the waiter brought dessert, William leaned across the table. Do you know how to say sweet in Mandarin? Olivia said, the syllable soft, like honey. He tried to mimic it, but his pronunciation was clumsy. She burst into laughter, covering her mouth with her hand. William laughed too, though his eyes lingered on her, a rare lightness breaking through the polished armor he wore. You make it sound effortless, he murmured. It's not effortless, she replied, still smiling. It's memory. Every word feels like a thread back to my grandmother. He grew quiet at that, his gaze soft. You honor her every time you speak it. The sincerity in his voice nearly undid her. She busied herself with her fork, afraid of what might spill if she looked too long. Over the next week, they began meeting outside of obligations. He invited her to his office rooftop, where the city skyline stretched endless and dazzling. She told him about the time she almost studied linguistics but dropped out to pay bills. He admitted he sometimes envied people who could live without their lives planned 6 months in advance. One evening, they sat in his sleek black car parked by the pier, watching the waves slap against the shore. Olivia leaned back, letting the sea breeze whip her curls loose. You ever just want to disappear? She asked. All the time, William confessed. But when you run a company, disappearing isn't an option. If I vanish, empires crumble. Sounds lonely, she said softly. He glanced at her, and for once he didn't hide. It is. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was full, rich with understanding. Later that week, William invited her to an art gallery. Olivia had never been to one before, and she walked through the halls in awe. She paused in front of a painting of a woman holding a lantern in a storm. That one's my favorite, William said, standing beside her. Why? Because she looks afraid, he said, but she's still carrying the light. Olivia's breath caught. She turned to find him watching her, his words thick with unspoken meaning. For a moment, the gallery disappeared, and it was just them, 2 people carrying lights through storms they hadn't chosen. As their bond grew, so did the whispers at the cafe. Jasmine raised a brow one morning. So what's the deal? You and Mr. Suit spending a lot of time together lately. Olivia tried to shrug it off. We're just friends. Aha. Jasmine smirked. Friends don't look at each other like that. Olivia flushed but said nothing, because deep down she knew Jasmine was right. One evening, back in William's office after a long meeting, Olivia noticed a framed photo tucked behind a stack of books. It was of a younger William with his father, both standing stiffly in front of a building. His father's hand gripped his shoulder too tightly, William's jaw set like stone. You don't smile in it, Olivia murmured. William followed her gaze. His face darkened. That was the day he told me I'd never be good enough to run the company. Her chest ached. But you did. At a cost, he said, his voice low. I lost myself trying to prove him wrong. She touched the frame gently, then looked up at him. Maybe it's time to stop proving and start living. Their eyes locked, something raw passing between them. Neither spoke, but the silence said enough. Do you think 2 people with very different lives can truly understand each other? Or do shared wounds matter more than shared worlds? The storm didn't come all at once. It built slowly, like clouds thickening on the horizon. William had been more distracted than usual that week. His calls were longer, his tone sharper. Olivia noticed the shift, though he tried to hide it. One evening, he canceled their dinner at the last minute, sending only a terse message. Meeting ran over. Rain check. Olivia told herself not to care. He was a billionaire CEO. He owed her nothing. And yet, when she closed her apartment door that night, the emptiness pressed harder than it should have. The next morning at the cafe, she nearly dropped a tray when a headline flashed on the TV mounted above the counter. Runchu Industries secures Chinese merger in landmark deal. The clip showed William shaking hands with the same partners she had translated for. Except this time, the interpreter standing at his side was not her. It was a polished woman in a crisp suit, smiling at the cameras like she belonged there. Olivia's stomach sank. Jasmine leaned close, whispering, "Guess he replaced you fast." Olivia forced a laugh, but her hands trembled as she poured coffee for a customer. That evening, William appeared at the cafe. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his hair slightly disheveled. "Olivia," he began softly. She turned, anger sparking. "Don't. Not tonight." He blinked, taken aback. "What happened?" She laughed bitterly. "You really don't know. I saw the news. Congratulations on your merger. And your new interpreter." Realization dawned in his eyes. It wasn't Olivia, she's not replacing you. She was already. "Stop." Her voice cracked. "You don't have to explain. I get it. I was convenient. Temporary. A novelty, maybe. But not someone you'd ever stand beside when the cameras are on." His jaw tightened. "That's not true. Isn't it?" She took a step closer, fury burning through the hurt. "Do you have any idea what it meant to me? To stand in that room, to be seen, to be useful again? And then I find out you've moved on without even telling me." William's face hardened, his own defenses rising. "This merger is bigger than you and me. Bigger than feelings. I don't have the luxury of explaining every move I make." Her chest hollowed. "Right. Because I'm just the waitress who got lucky. Don't worry. I won't mistake this for more than it is again." Silence crackled between them. For a long moment, neither spoke, the weight of unspoken truths suffocating. Finally, William's voice broke, quieter than she'd ever heard it. "You think I don't care. But I care too much. That's the problem." Olivia's eyes burned, but she forced steel into her words. "Then maybe caring isn't enough." She ripped off her apron, tossed it onto the counter, and walked out before he could stop her. The days that followed were unbearable. Olivia buried herself in work, avoiding William's calls and messages. Each buzz of her phone was a reminder of what she had lost. At night, she replayed every word they had said, every look they had shared. She hated herself for missing him, hated him for making her feel like she belonged, only to prove she never really did. Meanwhile, William threw himself into work with ruthless precision. But no matter how many contracts he signed, how many deals he secured, the silence where Olivia's voice used to be gnawed at him. He replayed her words in the cafe, the way her voice had cracked when she said maybe caring wasn't enough. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. Not against competitors or markets, but against the walls he had built around himself. One night, William stood alone on his rooftop terrace, the city lights glittering below. He poured a glass of whiskey and stared at the skyline, but all he saw was her. Her laughter in the restaurant. Her tears when she spoke of her grandmother. Her fire when she told him he couldn't buy her. And the way she had looked at him before everything shattered. Like he was more than his fortune, more than his name. He realized then that he had made the very mistake he feared most. He had treated her like everyone else treated him, like a role to fill, not a person to cherish. Meanwhile, Olivia found herself wandering into her grandmother's old neighborhood one evening. The little Chinese bookstore was still there, though dustier now, the red lanterns faded. She stepped inside, inhaling the familiar scent of old paper and ink. A book of Mandarin proverbs caught her eye. She opened it, her eyes falling on a line her grandmother used to repeat. "The heart that truly sees does not let go." Tears blurred the words. She wanted to believe it was true, but her heart whispered otherwise. People let go all the time. Her mother, her father, and now William. She closed the book and walked out into the night, determined to bury the ache. Both of them drifted through the days, broken mirrors of each other. Olivia wore her hurt like armor. William hid his regret behind boardroom victories. But neither could shake the truth. They had glimpsed something rare, and now the loss of it cut deeper than they expected. And as storms go, this one hadn't yet finished breaking them. Olivia hadn't seen William in nearly 2 weeks. The days bled together in shades of gray, each shift at the cafe stretching endlessly. She moved through motions, pouring coffee, smiling at customers, wiping tables. But inside she was hollow. Jasmine noticed. "You're quieter," she said one morning, stacking cups. Olivia shrugged. "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw William on that rooftop, his voice echoing. "You think I don't care. But I care too much." She wanted to believe him. But believing meant risking everything. William, too, had become a ghost in his own life. His meetings were efficient, his decisions sharp, his face unreadable. But behind closed doors, he drowned in silence. One night, after a particularly long day, he found himself staring at Olivia's number on his phone. His thumb hovered over the screen. He could call. He could explain. He could beg. But pride was a cruel companion. It whispered. She walked away. She chose to leave. If you reach out, you'll prove your weakness. He set the phone down, poured another drink, and told himself he could live without her. But the truth throbbed in his chest. He couldn't. Olivia returned to the old bookstore again, as if searching for answers in the dust. She wandered between shelves, trailing her fingers along cracked spines, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. "The heart that truly sees does not let go." She whispered the words aloud, testing them on her tongue. For the first time, they didn't sound like comfort. They sounded like a challenge. Did William truly see her? Or had she been a passing fascination, a temporary light in his otherwise calculated world? She sank into a wooden chair in the corner, her chest aching. Maybe she had been too harsh. Maybe she had judged him too quickly. Or maybe she was just afraid that believing him would mean opening the door to being abandoned again. Meanwhile, William sat at his desk long past midnight, the city quiet beyond the glass. He opened the drawer where he kept the photo of himself and his father. He stared at it for a long time before setting it aside. He scribbled notes for a speech he didn't have to give, scratched out words, started again. None of it mattered. Finally, he wrote a single sentence on the page. "If you don't reach for her, you'll lose her forever." He stared at the words until they blurred. Days passed. Neither of them moved. Pride held them hostage. Fear chained them in place. But life, as it often does, forced their hand. It began with a message, one that arrived not from William, but from his assistant. "Mr. Run Chu requests your presence at tomorrow's press conference. He insists it is important." Olivia read the words 3 times. Her heart raced, but suspicion prickled. Was this another setup? Another chance for her to feel small? She nearly deleted the message. But something inside her, A voice softer than pride, older than fear, whispered, "Go." The next day, the ballroom of the hotel buzzed with reporters, cameras flashing, voices rising. Olivia slipped in through the side, unnoticed, her hands trembling. She almost turned back. Then she saw him. William stood at the podium, immaculate in his suit, but there was something different about him. His usual guarded expression was gone. His eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on her. For the briefest moment, relief flickered across his face. He began to speak. His words carried across the room, confident yet tinged with vulnerability. "For years," he said, "I have believed that strength meant control. That power meant never needing anyone. But I was wrong." The reporters shifted, intrigued. "True strength," William continued, "is not in walls we build, but in the courage to tear them down. And sometimes it takes meeting one extraordinary person to realize how much you've been hiding." His eyes never left Olivia's. Her breath caught. He wasn't speaking to the press. He was speaking to her. Afterward, as the room dissolved into questions and flashes, William stepped away from the podium. He cut through the crowd, ignoring the reporters calling his name, heading straight for her. Olivia froze, her body torn between flight and surrender. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the exhaustion and hope warring in his eyes. "I was wrong," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "I should have told you everything. I should have made you believe." She swallowed hard, her defenses trembling. "Why now?" "Because living without you feels like dying slowly," he admitted. His voice cracked raw. "And I can't do it anymore." Tears stung her eyes. Her heart warred with her fear, her pride with her longing. She whispered, "I don't know if I can trust you." His hand hovered near hers, not touching, waiting. "Then let me spend the rest of my life proving you can." Silence hung heavy. The ballroom faded into nothing. It was only them, standing on the precipice of choice. Olivia's heart pounded. She could walk away, protect herself, keep the walls up, or she could leap. Her grandmother's words echoed again. "The heart that truly sees does not let go." Slowly, with trembling fingers, she slipped her hand into his. William closed his eyes briefly, like a man finally breathing after years underwater. Neither spoke. They didn't need to, because in that moment the choice had been made. The days after the press conference felt like waking from a long, restless sleep. For the first time in years, William canceled back-to-back meetings, ignored his calendar, and let the silence of his penthouse fill with something new. Possibility. Olivia didn't immediately rush back into his life. She was cautious, her heart still tender. But when William called, not with demands, not with business, but with a simple, "Can I see you?" she agreed. They met in the cafe, the place where it had all begun. It was quieter that evening, the usual chatter replaced by the low hum of the espresso machine. Olivia sat in their usual booth, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. William approached, no entourage, no suit armor. Just a man in a plain shirt and slacks. He looked almost ordinary. And yet, when he sat across from her, his presence filled the space. "I wanted it to be here," he said softly, glancing around the cafe. "This is where I first saw you, heard you, where everything shifted." Olivia's chest tightened. "I almost wish you hadn't." "Why?" "Because it would have been easier. I wouldn't have had to feel all this." She gestured vaguely, her voice trembling. "I wouldn't have had to risk anything." William leaned forward, his gaze steady. "But you did. And so did I. And I don't want to go back to who I was before." Olivia searched his face. He wasn't the polished CEO now. He wasn't the billionaire who could command rooms with a glance. He was just William, flawed, vulnerable, and hers if she wanted him. They talked for hours, words spilling like water breaking through a dam. William told her about nights he'd stayed awake, afraid she'd never forgive him. Olivia admitted how she replayed his words, torn between hope and fear. At one point, William reached across the table, hesitating. "May I?" She placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, steady. "It's strange," Olivia whispered, "how someone can come crashing into your life and make you feel like you've known them forever." He smiled faintly. Strange. And inevitable. Weeks passed, and with each day their bond deepened. Olivia began to visit William's world, not as an outsider, but as someone who belonged. She accompanied him to meetings, not just translating but offering insights that surprised even him. She walked beside him at charity galas, her natural warmth disarming the stiffest socialites. And William, in turn, stepped into her world. He sat at the cafe counter, joking with Jasmine, even rolling up his sleeves once to help Olivia wipe tables when the dishwasher broke. The sight made Olivia laugh so hard she cried, and William laughed with her, unguarded and free. For the first time, they weren't two halves of broken lives. They were whole together. One evening, William brought Olivia to his rooftop terrace again. The city stretched below them, alive with lights. But instead of the whiskey glass and solitude that had once marked his nights here, he carried 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to her. "Chamomile. Your favorite." She arched a brow, impressed. "You remembered." "I remember everything about you," he said simply. They leaned against the railing, the wind teasing their clothes, the world below a blur. "I used to hate this view," William admitted. "All it showed me was how small people looked. How easy it was to forget they had stories. And now," he glanced at her, his voice soft, "now it reminds me that the one person who matters most was always just within reach." Olivia's throat tightened. She turned toward him, eyes glistening. "William." Before she could finish, he leaned down, his lips brushing hers with a tenderness that stole her breath. It wasn't the kiss of a billionaire used to taking what he wanted. It was the kiss of a man finally willing to give. Olivia melted into it, her hands clutching his shirt as if to anchor herself. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of being left. She was exactly where she was meant to be. In the weeks that followed, the world buzzed with curiosity about the billionaire and the waitress. Reporters speculated, cameras followed, whispers spread. But Olivia and William learned to tune it out. Because what they had wasn't for headlines. It was for them. Late at night, Olivia would curl against him, whispering Mandarin phrases that her grandmother once sang. William would repeat them clumsily, making her laugh until her sides hurt. And when silence fell, they would lie together, breathing in rhythm, knowing they had chosen this, chosen each other. Months later, Olivia stood once again in front of the bookstore in her grandmother's neighborhood. The red lanterns had been replaced, glowing brighter now. She walked inside, William beside her, and picked up the same book of Proverbs she had once read alone. This time she opened to a page and read aloud, her voice steady. "Love is not finding someone to live with. It is finding someone you cannot live without." William brushed a kiss against her temple. "Your grandmother was right about everything." Olivia smiled, tears brimming her eyes. "Especially about the heart that truly sees." He tilted her chin up gently. "And I see you, Olivia. Always." Their lips met again, sealing not just a romance but a promise. Do you believe love finds us when we least expect it, or only when we're finally ready to see it? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about second chances and unexpected love. Olivia and William's journey from chance encounter to heartbreak to reconciliation closes not with wealth or power, but with the simple, profound truth that love, when real, heals, redeems, and endures. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out.